got a, Russell Crowe and Gladiator. But John, welcome back.
How are you doing, Neil?
Good. I promised that I'd bring you back in after the weekend. Where do I begin with this? Put a number on it.
Well, Neil, I tell you, RT and the rest of the media are totally lying about the numbers. O'Connell Street was full from the top to the bottom till we turned left to go down to the quays. And I stood up on the statue and I looked back. I tell you, you couldn't see the end of the queue. Literally, and green and white flags the whole way back. I say it was over a kilometre long.
Yeah. So what are you estimating? Are you one of those that are saying?
Videos up online. If you go on to Facebook,
I saw some of them. I mean, I saw some of them. There was a sea of people I've never seen.
But the drone footage that was put up, the drone footage went the whole distance of it. I say there was at least over 50,000, more even. I think.
Wow! It's got to have been.
It was amazing the amount of people and not one bit of trouble, Neil.
Okay, but some of the papers then this morning decided to put a negative spin on it. Public order arrests at demo. And when you read it, then you see 3 people were arrested for public order offences during protests staged in Dublin city centre at the week. That must be exasperating for people who were there to see people honing in or media honing in on arrests.
Or should they have to do something, Neil? They have to get something to make them look well, like. Because if there was 50,000 people and they didn't get no arrest, and they're spending all that money on all the amount of guards there up there, and they have to arrest someone. They have to get something into the headlines,
Yeah, and in fairness, I did read An Garda Síochána's quote on the matter. They said there were no major incidents of note occurring.
But Neil, even the amount of us that were there, if we were if we had small numbers like the counter protest, and the counter protest had as many the big numbers as we had, they would have attacked us, Neil. They were like a bunch of wild dogs behind bars, just wanting to get out and attack us if them guards.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
What they were shouting at us, what they were calling us, we had kids and children and old people with us, and loads of people from different countries and everything.
But my understanding is all they were chanting. You were there, I wasn't, so you can correct me. Obviously, that they were chanting, "Whose streets? Our streets."
Oh, that's what our protest was shown, but the counter protest on the left side, what they were standing outside the GPO as we were passing, what they were shouting at us, and the signs they had with some stuff written on the signs that shouldn't even be left on the street, the dirt they said,
Well, like what? Racist and fascist and...
Oh, Nazis out and all these kind of things. And so they're calling us racist when there was actually foreign people protesting with us, holding Irish flags, saying that what's happening is wrong,
That the issue isn't with regards... that the issue is what? Not people coming to Ireland to work or raise a living or raise a family.
It's not. That's what people think that this counter protest is all about, is just the one thing. It wasn't just about this one thing about just the immigration. It was about everything. We want to bring all our doctors home. We want to get all our teachers into proper schools. We want to keep our teachers here so they're not... it's about everything that the government is doing. It's not about just this one topic at all, Neil. And that's what people are pushing to say, we're Nazis, all we're doing is just this one topic.
Okay.
It's not. That's one of the main topics, and the whole country knows that we're being flooded.
Okay, there was lots of people holding a big, massive new... I hadn't seen these before, placards saying, "Make Ireland Great Again." That's a new addition now, that slogan, isn't it?
It was, no, and I think they're taking after, you obviously know yourself, the American,
Yeah.
What Trump is doing, but some people see what Trump is doing, and they kind of want it's probably the same done here, just our borders closed, and we need to start deporting people that aren't willing to pay their taxes, and they're just here on free welfare. Then people need to go, Neil, and we have around 17,000 Irish homeless that have nowhere to go, and all they're doing then is just cancelling this. If people were renting properties before, Neil, and the landlord was going to sell them, the council will come in and put in a bid and probably buy that property off them so the tenant can still live in that house. And now they're saying, we can't afford that anymore, so you're just out in your arse when they decide to sell up.
Are you aware that Micheál Martin said, following it, that he rejects what he determines as being narrow nationalism?
I read a comment or something yesterday that He said that it wouldn't even bother him that about the protest yesterday. They're not bothered about the numbers.
Yeah, he says that because he says that the people already voted in the local elections and in the national elections, and that they have the mandate.
Voted, but I don't know whether the corrupt vote, Neil, at the end of the day, because there was multiple people out there, and I don't think one of them people was voting Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil yesterday.
Well, come on now, you're stretching it a bit there, John. You're starting to sound like Trump.
There has to be something wrong in the election, because anyone you talk to, no one ever says they voted from. So where's all these votes?
Well, hang on a second. What he did say was that there was all of the demonstrators. Let's say it was somewhere between 10 and 50,000. You're suggesting even higher than that. He says,
Neil, it was definitely higher.
I know. Listen, I'm listening to what you're saying. That's why I wanted you to get back on. If that many people gathered in Dublin, they have a right to have the story covered. No, in fairness, they do. But he says, even in spite of how many people went up to Dublin, there still would be millions of people who don't agree with those that went to Dublin. So therefore the mandate is with him.
There was a lot of, I think the crowd would have even been bigger, Neil, if a threat wasn't sent out about 4 or 5 days beforehand. There was a threat sent out warning people not to go to the protest. Online there was a threat sent out, and a lot of people, even some party members, didn't show up over that threat.
I'm going to regret asking you about, what do you mean by a threat?
There was a threat sent out there was Palestinian protest up in Dublin last week, and there was a man bait by these group of fellas, and there was a threat sent out saying that anyone turns up to the protest, they're going to be looked after.
We could do without that. We could do without that. Yeah, we could do without that.
That's all these there's enough division. People turned up and they didn't take any notice of it.
Okay, but shouting things like "Get them out, get them out, get them out," Ireland for the Irish, Ireland for the Irish.
That's what we're saying. Get the government out. We're on about the government.
Okay, well, the other one, Ireland for the Irish, Ireland for the Irish. Isn't that forgive me now, but let me just.
Any other country, like
what?
Like if I go to Australia, Australia's for the Australians, England's for the English, Italy is for the Italians.
But it's not really, John. Sure, it's not. We have to. It's not really like we need.
If I go to England, I'm a guest in that country. I obey by their laws. I do what I'm told in their country. Yeah. And I walk and I pay my taxes. Yeah. That's what you do when you come to a country. But what's happening now is we're being invaded by migrants that are not willing to work. They know they come to Ireland for the best welfare in Europe. Yeah. And it's medical cards, they have everything they need, free travel. You even see them on the Lewis there when I was up in Dublin, scanning. Not one of them are paying for a ticket.
Well, actually, but you're generalising there again now. Whoever you saw that possibly doesn't have the same colour skin as you, who's got a Lewis card and a scanning, probably is holding down a job.
These are groups. You know the difference, Neil.
Okay. Okay. I'm just saying. Just on another point. After that and the huge big numbers, do you think that people who are living here from another country now, up to and including those that are working and have families, that they feel a little more unsafe in Ireland now after the weekend?
I don't think so, Neil. No, because there was a lot of foreign people in the protest that were actually standing with us and agreeing with exactly what we are protesting about. We weren't shouting Nazi things, we weren't shouting anything bad. All we were just saying is Ireland for the Irish. If you want to come to Ireland, you're more than welcome. We're welcoming people for hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. But you come here and you obey by the laws, you pay your way. You don't just come into Ireland and get a house after a year or 2 years after living here with people on the waiting list for 16 to 20 years, Neil.
That isn't the norm, though. You know what I mean? I mean, you will have exceptions to it, and that will happen. But it's not as if everybody that come here gets bounced ahead of Irish people on housing lists. You know that.
I do that. Remember the fellow you had on there just on the Pat Quinlan? He asked the council up in Dublin, he gets the numbers of the council list of how many foreign people are on the council list compared to how many Irish people are on the council list, and they refused.
I think that they would on the basis they wouldn't break it down into ethnicity or race or what have you. Hold on, thank you, Joanne. Good morning. Were you there?
Good morning, Lee.
Were you there Saturday?
I tell you, no, I was, and at first I wasn't going to go, okay, because I said to myself, I think this country's lost. But when the story broke that we're paying old age pensions for Ukrainians that never paid a cent in, that flipped me then.
I have to just push back. You know the reason for that. I mean, I dealt with that on the air last week. The comparable average pension for about 50% of Ukrainians is something like €70 a month or something. It goes up for some of them, but, and here then it could be 200 and odd or what have you. The reason for that is that when Ukrainian war refugees came here, they got the same status as somebody in the European Union. They got special emergency legislation passed to allow them.
Even though they're not in the EU.
They're not in the EU, but they get. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got all of the different things that they got, and amongst them would be a PPS number, and therefore the right to work if they want, and accommodation and food and transport and all of these things. But also they also got the right to draw social welfare payments. So if they're drawing a social welfare payment, then they can draw an old age pension. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have my own opinion on that. But I was there anyway on Saturday, and it was absolutely a fantastic day. Turnout was unbelievable. I was gobsmacked. And I saw no trouble whatsoever, only from the other side, trying to ignite trouble, antagonising people. I stood there next to the riot police. They had the far left in behind the barrier, and the filth and dirt that they were shouting. I was so upset. There was an elderly couple standing there with a flag, and they were just observing. They weren't saying anything, and they were calling them Nazi scum off our streets. The elderly woman was in shock. She was like, "Why are they calling me this? Now these are the same crowd every week want to kill all the Jews." Okay, it was a disgrace. They were.
You just gave as good as you got just there now by just what you just said.
Absolutely, but I wasn't an old age pensioner.
No, but you're putting labels and calling people names, and Neil,
how is it calling people names? Let's be real.
But how are you different to them? You just went on about wanting them wanting to kill Jews. It's an horrific thing to say, and you just said it.
But listen to what I'm saying, okay? They were standing there with big flags, boycott Israel, right? They had keffiyehs, those scarfy things on them, masks, right? They were behind the guards doing Nazi signs. I was watching this. I told the guard, I said, they're behind your back there now doing Nazi signs, and the F off sign they were doing with their fingers. I said, it's not hate speech, what they're saying to these people here. Like it's either the law now or it's not the law. We can't have it both ways. I came on to tell the absolute truth. May I die where I stand. Yeah. They were antagonising, out to antagonise, and that's what they done. Right? Like,
so there could have been trouble then, very easily.
I spoke to one of the riot police, and I told him, I said, why are they allowed to say all this now? And there's, seemingly a rumour went out that the nationalists, which were the protesters, weren't allowed to wear masks going up there, okay? Fair enough. Yeah. No one was going to do that. But they were in behind the barrier by Sinn Féin, where Sinn Féin was supporting them, and they had masks on them. They were masked up. They had balaclavas, black things up over their noses, and they were doing Nazi signs to the elderly Irish people that were standing there. I seen it.
Was there people of all ages there?
I was shocked at the amount of young people. I couldn't believe it. I've seen so many young people that I've seen on TikTok, and they obviously were all sharing it because, I don't know, some rumour went out that some TikToker told people not to go, right? But some people fell for it and others didn't. Because I've been to every protest. I went to every water protest. There was never an ounce of trouble. Not once to me. And I wouldn't lie to you. But before you cut me off, there was a crowd coming back on the train. They were from Limerick. Lovely, 4 people. There was a guy with his two sons and his daughter. And they went into the restaurant before they got back on the train in Houston. And they had their Irish flags rolled up in their hand. And they refused to serve them people in there. They asked them to leave.
Now, I wonder why.
Oh, it's just insane.
No, but why? On what basis? On what basis would they have been refused service? What did they want? Did they want food? Did they want?
Oh yes, they were getting food before they got back on the train to go back to Limerick. That's all they were doing. The father with his 3 adult children. They were going in to get something cheap before they got back on the train, and they refused to serve them.
Were you there? Did you see that?
Well, I was in the restaurant, but our flags, we had them, the thing you put on the umbrella for kids at the beach, the cover. We had ours inside that, so maybe they didn't think we had flags. Because we had no problem getting served.
So what did they say when people walked in with the rolled up tricolour?
He said they asked them, they went up to the counter to order food and they were asked to leave. And he said the only thing was they were standing there with their flags, but they had them rolled up.
Was it full? Maybe it was full. Maybe there was no seating for them. Maybe they were overcrowded.
I was actually in there and it was not full. No. And I got on.
That's an extraordinary thing to do to somebody, a family.
Well, I hope they come on now and back it up, because that's what happened. And when I got on the bus to get to the square, there was a lovely guy on the bus. He was showing us where to get off. A colour guy, fabulous guy. He's lived here 20 years, and we had a chat. He said, I don't agree with what's going on here at all. And he asked me, why are you up here today? He said, just give me your reasons. I said, well, number one, I said, we can't house our own people. And my son was taken off the housing list after 6 years of being on the housing list, taken off because he got a rise in his job. So he's back now paying 60% of his income on private rent. How's that fair? Okay.
But what did he mean, that gentleman, when he said, I don't agree with what's going on up here? That he didn't agree with the protest?
That our country can't cope with this.
Oh, he would be in support of the protests?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I've seen more foreigners up there, practically. I'd say there was a good 10% of what was there were farm people, and they were
yet last week I had a woman on the air of African extraction, black woman, who spoke to me on the air about being in and around a shopping mall where young fellas down around Mahon were pounding her car with stones and rocks and calling her an NIGGER.
But that's wrong.
Of course, wrong. So do you worry at all that protests like this and demonstrations like this might make people who are not white feel a little more unsafe?
But look, I'm sorry, but that's collateral damage. This is the government's fault because they're not listening to the people. I forgot to tell you this part now too. There was I don't know what, with green hair. We're doing the videos online. We're doing the gun sign, the gun up to the head. It's all there. Like, you call someone a hurty name now and they can arrest you. But this person was standing on the street right behind the riot police doing gun signs to this couple.
As in...
It's despicable.
As in pointing a fake gun with his fingers at it.
Oh yeah, up to the far. You'll find the video online.
Okay.
And shooting in the head. I mean, like, all right, they had Sinn Féin. There was lots of Sinn Féin support with them. They had Paul Murphy, People Before Profit. As far as I was concerned, they were just like students. And I said, these people are just brainwashed. We're fighting for our country here. We're trying to fight for our country.
So all of the parties or politicians of the left would have been in support. So it's fair to say then that Sinn Féin would have been very much anti the sentiment of the demo on Saturday.
100%.
Okay.
I think it's Donnellan or something.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm going to park it there. Joanne, thank you for that. Text 0868 104 106. Back after 10.